Microphone check, 1, 2. How's my mic? Yo, what is up? How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Sleuth Intuition YouTube channel. Today's live stream. I think this might be episode 3, True Crime Cases. So today we're going to talk about Sydney Sutherland out of Arkansas. And we're going to talk about the Abby and Libby case out of Delphi, Indiana. Most of you know that we dedicate a lot of time to bringing awareness and to keep the conversation active when it comes to the Delphi case. But when we're looking into that case, a lot of times I find these strange cases, like Sydney Sutherland. For example, there's a lot of talk about the killer of Abby and Libby potentially joining a search party with hopes to contaminate or explain away DNA or certain evidence. So I just was really just curious about it. Was kind of looking at statistics, past cases, and I stumbled upon Sydney Sutherland's case here. This is a horrible case. Viewer discretion is advised. Okay, now on the right you have a picture of Sydney, and the person on the left, his name is Quake Llewellyn. He's the person who was convicted of her murder and rape. Okay, a man who faces a capital murder charge in the killing of Sydney Sutherland joined a volunteer group that searched for her after she went missing, volunteers said. Sutherland, a 25-year-old nurse, disappeared August 19th while she was jogging in a Newport area. Local law enforcement and dozens of volunteers searched for her for days before Quake Llewellyn, 28, admitted to killing her, according to authorities. Jackson County Sheriff David Lucas said Llewellyn and Sutherland knew each other. Both of their families owned many acres of farmland in Jackson County, and they graduated from the same high school 3 years apart. One member of the community said it wouldn't have been unusual for them to run into each other. Even the prosecuting attorney, Henry Boyce, said on Monday that he knows both families. Llewellyn reportedly told detectives that he saw Sutherland walking on County Road 41 the day she vanished. Arkansas State Police Special Agent Mike McNeil testified in court, hearing that Llewellyn turned his truck around and abducted Sutherland. McNeil said Llewellyn drove about 3 miles to a farm where he raped Sutherland, killed her, and buried her body. Okay, so what I did was I gathered up some news clips that I felt kind of told the story the best. And then we'll kind of talk about some of the similarities and what kind of insight this might provide into some of these unsolved cases that are out there. Yeah, Sharon, this case is extremely sad. Very random. Hello. Hey, what's up, Frank? Digital, good to see you. Hey, Jill. How's everything on your side of town?
Tonight, a community is in searching for someone who's been missing now in Jackson County. A woman was last seen yesterday afternoon. Jackson County Sheriff says a UPS driver was last one to see Sydney Sutherland around 3 o'clock yesterday, jogging near her home near Highway 18 between Grubbs and Newport. Our Hunter Hoagland joining us now live from the scene. What we learned so far, and there has been some late-breaking developments, Hunter.
Yeah, Bob, I just talked to the Jackson County Sheriff over the phone, who tells me they recovered Sutherland's phone about a quarter-mile from her home earlier today. Now, I talked to friends of the family who say this whole thing has them searching for answers.
As the sun sets, the clock is ticking.
Won't ever stop searching.
No one has seen or heard from Sydney Sutherland in more than a day after she went running down this road, leaving behind pain at the crossroads.
We're just really upset about it all.
From eyes in the sky to eyes on the ground, Felicia Drake is searching for the girl she watched grow up.
It was just devastating, and I just thought about her mother and how, how she felt and how it would be awful, not to be able to find your daughter.
Obviously everybody loves her. I mean, you can tell by all the people that's out looking for her.
Sutherland, 5'3", brown eyes, blonde hair, was wearing this when she vanished in the middle of the afternoon.
You're definitely going to be looking over your shoulder everywhere you go and not going anywhere alone anymore.
Volunteers working around the clock, saying they'll never quit looking until Sydney Sutherland finds the road that leads back home.
We just want to find her.
And Jackson County authorities are asking anyone who traveled on Highway 67 Wednesday afternoon between 2 and 5 p.m. to give them a call if they saw anything, quote, remotely suspicious. You can find their number on our website. Live in Jackson County tonight, I'm Hunter Hoagland. Back to you.
Jackson County woman comes to an end after the sheriff tells us her body was found. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for Fox 16 News at 5:30. I'm Donna Terrell.
I'm Kevin Kelly. Sydney Sutherland was first reported missing Wednesday afternoon after she left her home to go for a jog. Our Claire Kreitz following this story all day. She joins us live in Jackson County with more on this devastating news. Claire.
Yeah, Kevin, I talked to Sheriff David Lucas about 3 o'clock today, and he did confirm they found Sutherland's body. Now, we don't know exactly where, but we are just north of Highway 67, and you can see that a deputy is blocking off the access road. Now, I've seen law enforcement go in and out of that area, but again, we don't know exactly where Sutherland's body was found. We do know that they did find her phone yesterday more north, about a quarter mile from her home, and they were concentrating their search efforts there.
Did you hear that? They found her phone.
The sheriff did have a press conference at 1 this afternoon before Sutherland's body was found, and he talked about how this case hits close to home.
Just kind of personal. I do know the family, know them well. I know Sydney, watched her grow up. She went to school with my girls.
We're still waiting to talk to Sheriff Lucas and get more information about, what exactly happened and where her body was found. I asked him earlier if he planned to do an interview, and he said it would be several hours. So we will keep you updated as we learn more. Reporting live in Jackson County, I'm Claire Kreitz. Back to you.
All right, Claire.
Pleaded guilty to murder and rape her and will spend the rest of his life in prison. But true justice for Sydney, my daughter, will be here for her to be here. Would be for her to be here. Just thank you all, and just justice for Sydney. Thank you.
Just a brief statement from the prosecutor's office. John Petty, the deputy prosecutor. Today, a little more than 13 months later, Quake Llewellyn is answered for his horrendous actions brought upon a bright, beautiful, innocent young lady named Sydney Sutherland. It's the hope of this office that the Sutherland family can now have some closure and sense of finality. No length of incarceration or no punishment available under the law will ever be sufficient to provide retribution for the deeds of the evil mind that perpetrated these heinous acts. On behalf of the prosecutor's office, I want to thank in particular Sheriff David Lucas and his sheriff's department and all of the Arkansas State Police. A lot of people poured a lot of time and heart and soul into this case, and it's been a long and difficult road, and we're proud to bring some semblance of justice for the family. And if you all were in there and saw that victim impact statement that Maggie Sutherland gave, I think we all witnessed truth, strength in person today. That was very powerful, and she and all the family will remain in our prayers. And I'll ask, and you all seem to be doing pretty good about respecting their privacy, and we appreciate that because this is an emotional time for them. And justice for Sydney.
What did you make out of the fact that Quake Llewellyn followed Maggie's request to look at her in the eyes during the victim impact statement? Because he didn't have to.
I know. I looked at him the same as you to see if he complied with that request, and he did. It was a powerful moment, and if she wanted him to look at her, I'm glad that he did, because that woman...
Accused of kidnapping and killing a 25-year-old woman in Jackson County, set to appear in court tomorrow morning. Good evening, and thanks for joining us for Fox 16 News. I'm Kevin Kelly.
I'm Donna Terrell. Quake Llewellyn is charged with capital murder in the death of Sydney Sutherland and has pleaded not guilty. Claire Kreitz has more on what to expect at the hearing.
Did you kill Sydney Sutherland?
In just hours, Quake Llewellyn is set to be back in a courtroom again as the clock ticks down to his trial. Llewellyn's attorneys filed 48 motions back in May, from the trial itself, jury selection, evidence, and even down to what can be worn by people watching the trial. It comes after the prosecutor said he's pursuing the death penalty. About a dozen of the 48 motions deal with the death penalty, from how the jury could be selected to the victim impact statements. There's also several motions asking the judge to throw the death penalty out altogether. The defense team also asking for a change of venue. In the motion, Llewellyn claims the minds of the inhabitants of Jackson County are so prejudiced against him that a fair and impartial trial cannot be held in Jackson County.
I wonder if that would be true for if they were to catch or press charges on somebody who was actually from Delphi. I mean, could you actually, have the procedures go down in Carroll County? They probably most likely do the same thing in that scenario.
It also points out several memorials that have been held in honor of Sutherland, like the overpass renamed after her, a billboard with the hashtag Justice for Sydney, and yard signs all over town.
Oh yeah, I wanted to show you guys this. I thought this was really cool.
Overpass renamed after her, a billboard with the hashtag Justice for Sydney, and yard signs all over town. Llewellyn's attorneys are asking for access to his truck so a defense expert could test drive it where deputies say Sutherland was last seen. County Road 41. Sydney's family telling us earlier this year they'll fight for justice, but now that could be delayed.
I want to be her voice, also to find a way to protect people in the future from what she went through.
The defense now asking for a judge to push the entire trial until next year.
Court records show the hearing tomorrow will likely be on changing the trial's location. The judge is scheduled to take up the other motions in October. We will have complete coverage of tomorrow's hearing for you on air and online.
Murder has now filed for divorce. Court records say that Quake Llewellyn's wife filed the amended divorce complaint today. Grace Llewellyn accuses Quake of abuse, contempt, and neglect in their 2-year marriage. Quake was arrested in August on suspicion of capital murder, kidnapping, and rape in the death of Sydney Sutherland. He's being held without bond in the murder. He'll be in court in October.
That were filed in the Sydney Sutherland case. A lot of breaking developments happening this morning. I want to get straight to my colleague, Claire Kreitz.
Now, these guys, the reason I included this, they show a lot, they talk a lot about the evidence and how what the evidence that was presented in court. And a lot of it's very similar to the stuff in the Delphi case. I mean, listen to this.
Is tracking all these brand new developments. You just got back from Jackson County within the last 30 minutes or so. Claire, catch us up on what has happened this morning.
Well, I did talk to the public defender, Bill James, who is representing Quake Llewellyn, the man accused of kidnapping, raping, and killing Sydney Sutherland. He did waive his arraignment and he's pleading not guilty. Now, we do know that the next court date will be February 16th. So yeah, waived the arraignment and he is pleading not guilty.
Okay.
All right. So take notice of what she says about the case being pushed back. She's going to talk about the case being pushed back or the trial dates being pushed back because law enforcement and the prosecutors wanted to make sure they had all of the evidence that they needed to have a successful case. And that's the reason they pushed it back. So that was good news.
So while all of that has come to light, he's also requesting a jury trial. And all of this happening at the same time that all of these search warrant affidavits have been released. This is really starting to shed new light on this investigation and what authorities were doing over several days when not only Sydney Sutherland disappeared, but in the days after Quake Llewellyn was arrested.
Yes, so they did already push back the original arraignment date. And I talked to the sheriff and he said that's the investigators making sure they have every piece of evidence, they dot every I, they cross every T. We're seeing that right now with all of these documents released. I actually have some of
so that gave me a lot of hope.
Them in front of me. It's just gathering all the evidence that they can. One of the big things that we found out today is that according to these documents, Carrie Llewellyn, which is Quake Llewellyn's mother, contacted law enforcement after she had seen DVR surveillance footage from her home from before Sydney Sutherland was reported missing.
Okay. So Quake's own mother suspected him of the crime. So if we're dealing with something similar in Delphi, this would mean that somebody's guilty of accessory after the fact. For instance, let's say a grandmother was aware of something, some evidence like this, and she chose not to speak up. Grandmother, grandfather, family member, friend. You know, in this instance, this person did the right thing.
And after Sydney Sutherland was reported missing. And a big thing in that was that she saw a dent in the front of his pickup truck she did not see before he left the house that day. So the truck had a noticeable dent on that surveillance footage. She did turn that over to Arkansas State Police.
So Claire, let's hit the rewind button just a moment. So for those just catching up with us on Facebook and krk.com, fox16.com, you're saying that a family member contacted authorities to say, come look at this surveillance footage.
Yeah.
And that's according to these documents that we have right now.
Yeah, according to these documents that we have right now, is what that
says. So they were able to see that there was some kind of damage to the truck.
Okay, so what he did was he seen her jogging. Somebody witnessed him. And then by that time, he had turned around and he hit her with the truck. Picked her up, put her in the back of the truck, and that's when he took her to the location, her final location.
Quake Llewellyn was driving that was not there hours before that morning.
Yes, and a little bit of a background if you haven't been keeping up with the case. We did already know from investigators and from these court documents that Quake Llewellyn allegedly confessed to hitting her with his truck, and then taking her, putting her in the back of the truck, and raping and killing her and burying her in a grave. So that is the background on that.
And so that is one of the pieces to this search warrant that has been the documents that we're seeing from authorities. And so I also want to point out that...
Yes, Vanessa.
And Claire, I know we're still going through all of these documents together here.
Quake's mother noticed that there was a dent that wasn't there when he left. And when he came back, she noticed that there was a dent on the vehicle. With the knowledge that this girl was missing in the area, she reported it.
But it looks like in one of the search warrant affidavits, it appears that they were able to take, and so let's just back up if you don't mind. So for those just catching up on the case, August 19th, Sydney Sutherland goes for a run. She doesn't come home. Massive search starts that night. It continues through the early morning hours. August 21st, a couple days later, if memory serves correctly, a Friday, her body is found, and they have this suspect, Quake Llewellyn, in custody. And according to authorities, on August 21st, when they went and they found her body, I'm reading directly from the search warrant affidavit, photographs and shoe prints were preserved by using...
Shoe prints. I wonder if that's a big factor.
Some kind of casting material. So it sounds like, from what authorities are saying, my assumption is that they found shoe prints on the fresh soil where Sydney Sutherland was buried.
Yes, and the style of shoe actually is listed in here. It's a Sanuk style shoe.
Does anybody know what a Sanuk is? I couldn't figure it out.
That's what they were believing, and he was not wearing those when he was arrested. So they were trying to find some of that shoe, and they got a search warrant for that. Actually, in their surveillance video as well, it does say that investigators did see him wearing that Sanuk style shoe in that surveillance video with the truck as well.
And if I remember correctly, and folks, if you're just joining us here on Facebook, krk.com, fox16.com, we're going through some of these search warrants that
Well, that is a very interesting case. If you guys want to look into it further, that's Sydney Sutherland, and that's out of Jackson County, Arkansas. And now we are going to talk about Libby and Abby's case out of Delphi. Most of you guys are familiar with it. This is the most updated FBI flyer that's out. Yeah, I think so. Sanuk style. Sandals, okay. Thank you. Flip-flops. Yeah, and the thing is, that guy was married. He joined the search party. You know, talk about hiding in plain sight. Their families knew each other. 3 years apart, went to the same high school. But he most likely coveted her. I mean, she's extremely beautiful. You can tell how everybody really loved her. So you never know. Like I said, the guy's married, hiding in plain sight. Could have been the first time he's ever done anything like that. Just fringe, always on the fringe, maybe. The description they have here, all they have now is male, white. I mean, how can you even be sure of that? Maybe the DNA? Okay, now I want to read something to you guys. Okay, investigators have distributed a photo of a person observed on the Delphi Historic Trail. Now, are they referring to this photo? Obviously observed at the trail because it's on the bridge. Or are they referring to the composite sketch of the suspect? So it should say investigators have distributed a photo shown above of the person observed on the Delphi Historic Trail and a composite sketch or something along those lines. So what I wanted to do is kind of follow up with 3 short media clips that I pulled. And then also just to kind of go to piggyback off what me, Bill, and Derek were kind of talking about in regards to the timeline. So I'm going to play a couple of the videos that I wish I would have had at the time. They're really quick. And then we're going to look at the 5-year mark. They basically go over all of the information up until the Ron Logan affidavit information that Murder Sheet put out. And then I'm going to play that information, and then we'll kind of see what's going on in the chat at that point.
Police continue to search
Thanks,
for
Allie.
2 teenage girls who went missing early yesterday. Now, Naomi Peskovich, she is in Carroll County gathering information and joins us with what we know so far and about where those girls were last seen. Good morning.
Ben and Julia, good morning to you. This is the entrance to the trail where those two 13-year-olds were last seen. Officers, law enforcement, they have stopped the search for the night. But in the meantime, other folks have come out. We've seen family. We just saw a group who didn't even know the girls come out here because they heard the story and wanted to come out. They're here with flashlights searching for them, doing anything they can. There's been so much pressure to try and find these two young girls since they went missing yesterday afternoon. In the meantime, we do want to give you another look at these photos. This is so important so that if you do see them, you can let police know. Both of them, again, 13 years old. They're both about 5 feet 4 inches tall. Liberty, or Libby German. She has shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes. She was wearing a tie-dyed shirt, some gray sweatpants, and also black shoes. Then there's Abby, or Abigail Williams. She's also 5'4", with medium-length blonde hair and hazel eyes. She was wearing a gray zip-up sweatshirt and some jeans. Meantime, this search started again yesterday afternoon. The two actually had the day off school yesterday, so they decided they wanted to have some fun, spend some time on the trail, and take some photographs. They were dropped off by a family member. They were supposed to be picked up around 3 o'clock, but when that family member arrived, the girls were not here. They weren't answering their text messages or phone calls. Libby's grandfather tells us the search started right away.
We started going through all the social media things, picking up, looking at Facebook, has she talked to anybody, or had the girls been talking with anybody, Snapchatting or whatever the kids do today, back and forth, and really didn't find anything. The last message I think we found going out was like at about 2:30, which was like a Snapchat of a picture of them out there on this bridge on the trail system. And that was the last communication we've had.
And that bridge is a hallmark of this area, the Monon High Bridge. It's on this sign behind us. It's a place that's frequented by folks who live around here, but still the conditions of the bridge may be dangerous. Libby's grandfather is going to tell us why. That's coming up in our next half hour of Sunrise. In the meantime, we've shared these pictures online. If you see them, please help the family and share those photos as well.
Abby, these two teen girls have not been spotted in nearly 24 hours. That's where we're starting today at 12:30, the ongoing search for Libby German and Abby Williams. This story is unfolding right now in Delphi. That's in Carroll County, about 20 minutes northeast of Lafayette. Now, I want to show you the view from Google Earth. The girls were last seen near an abandoned bridge known as the Monon High Bridge, just outside Delphi. The area, as you see, is heavily wooded, and there's a creek running through it. Rich Van Wyk joins us live from the command center in Delphi. Rich, you've been talking with people out there. What's the latest there?
Well, the sheriff just briefed us a little while ago. He gave us details on the search, just how many people are involved. The fire department is now the command center for an exhaustive search that's covering a great swath of the county. More volunteer searchers are arriving here. They're ready and willing and able to start relieving some of the people who have been searching most of the morning in some of the wooded areas. From what we've heard and from what we've seen, there are probably about 200 civilian volunteers working with police, firemen, and others. They're searching woods, streams, fields, and buildings. The area, according to the sheriff, covers 20 to 25 square miles. Some of those areas, it's tough going. There are steep.
We've apparently lost our connection with Rich Van Wyk, but the video that you're seeing here gives you an idea of how rugged this particular area is. The vantage point, that's more than 200 people right now are searching for these two girls. Again, these two girls have been missing since yesterday about 1 o'clock, and you can again see this abandoned bridge here leading through Carroll County and a heavily wooded area. And we talked to a family member about what they think.
I see it's a small community that everybody pulls together. It's really heart-wrenching, you know what I mean, to see that. It's very touching, very moving.
You have trouble looking over there?
Yes, I do.
Because?
It's a rough time right now I'm going through.
Our hearts go out to the families as this search continues there in Carroll County. We're covering this story on WTHR.com. We've got a lot of information there. You can see pictures of the girls, the search area, all on WTHR.
how we got to this point and what we hope to know today.
A lot of emotions as we await for more information. An autopsy we know is scheduled for later this morning at 8 o'clock down in Terre Haute, where we expect to learn additional information, the identity of those two bodies found, as well as the exact manner of their death. Those are questions we're expecting to get answers to in the day ahead. Now, I want to show you more specifically where all this investigation is unfolding at here around the Delphi community. A map now shows that area around the Deer Creek as well as a cemetery. It is in that area where this investigation continues this morning. In fact, drone cam 13 flew over that scene. You can tell a large group of police officers working that case. They are blocking that scene this morning as well, as the investigation is still very fresh and the search is over for the most part, but it is that effort and that investigation right there that continues to unfold. And so many people in this community are on edge this morning. You can only imagine the panic residents and neighbors in that area are feeling. We caught up with one mother who says she won't let her child play outside.
And then my little boys, they're like, well, why can't we go play in the front yard? And I'm like, well, because it's probably not really a good time right now to do that, you know. So you guys can play in the backyard and I can monitor it, but, you know, I've got 3 boys, so that's something I'm going to have to be very cognizant of now at this point.
Neighbors in this community say they don't expect crime like what's just unfolded here in the past 48 hours to happen in this small community. It's a town, Julia, of less than 3,000 people. And to sort of show you kind of the small town, the small community feel, in our drive up here, we saw a deer outside. So this is just such a very small town and a small community. They think that what's happening is something that only happens in a big city, but unfortunately it's hitting far too close to home this morning.
Finding out that it's not an area where the parents felt safe enough to drop these girls off in a remote area, spend the day by themselves. So they have certainly lost that sense of security here this morning. As we mentioned, an autopsy will be performed at 8 o'clock this morning.
Okay. Now, before we get into this one, I do have to warn you, it is a tearjerker, so just be prepared for that. All right, guys, we got about 15 minutes to talk about anything, really. And then I got to get something to eat. Yep, it is heartbreaking. Kimmy Connect says some people were saying Ron Logan is 6'9"ish. I'm calling bullshit on that one. That girl beside him is not 6'3" or more. If it was Alexis, she's pretty tall. I think she's like 5'10" maybe. Plus, she's always wearing like boots or heels, whatever those broadcasters wear. Yeah, I'm thinking a friend of Kagan, possibly. And I don't know if Kagan even knew. It's possible he had no clue. But we really don't know anything about him, We have what's in the affidavit and what's in his interview and what some of his friends and family have said. Those are tiny little, it's like taking tiny little bits of a piece of paper. Let me see. I can play something in regards to that.
What's up with the investigation? I mean, like, how come nothing's came forward? I mean, it seems like a lot of things looking for me.
You know, it's just one of those situations where we got a case that you know this person's never apparently committed a crime before. We have, you know.
You would feel that he had never committed a crime. He has no DNA in the database.
Well, I can't comment on that, but I'm just saying that's what it looks like. I mean, the possibility he's done something, but we can't find no traces of it.
That was my first thought. I thought anybody at that age that would commit a crime like that would have priors.
Yeah,
You know?
you never know. You know, you got to start somewhere. I'm not the jury. All we do is collect
No,
evidence.
right, but that's why I was just
and
wondering
try to
if there was anything that you could share upon.
Not at this point in time.
Okay.
But appreciate you asking.
I
wish
keep
there
my
was.
eyes on it, you know, as hard as I can. Thanks for
So that answers that question. So Kim Riley said, it's almost like this person's never committed a crime. And that's where I came up. That's where the whole mean teen theory came from in regards to whenever you hear me talk about it. But we also know in Sydney Sutherland's case that we just went over, this Quake fellow, he never committed any crimes before. And just one day, boom, he turns his truck around and commits the worst of the worst. Hey, Jim. Jim says he could be a criminal that has not had DNA taken. Yeah, that's what makes me think of fingerprints, because he doesn't say, oh, he's never committed a felony, because usually that's the only time they take your DNA, right? Or if you're serving hard time or something like that. But he said crime. It's like he's never committed a crime before. So right there, I'm thinking fingerprints. It's good to see you, Tuck. Yeah, he will be caught. And the reason I talk about cold case, not that I think the case is cold. It's just that for it to be announced as a cold case officially, that means they get new permissions. You know what I mean? They get to start right from the beginning again. So that means that they're going to have a whole group of investigators go and question all of these witnesses again. And all of these witnesses over the last 5 years, their relationships have changed. Their loyalties have changed. I mean, some people's loyalties can change overnight. So imagine going and interviewing the ex-wife of the killer, who at the time the murders took place were in a very happy, relationship. But now there's a lot of spite, animosity, maybe certain things might come out now. So when you call something a cold case, it's not that they're giving up or, people are walking away from it. It means that they need to take whoever's on the case now, completely separate them, and have somebody else step in, get access to all the information, and start right from the beginning again with new ideas, new technology, because I'm assuming they would take the video, rework that, again, the audio. Who knows? So when I say cold case, don't think of it as a bad thing. Yeah, and it's been well over 5 years. We're going on 6 years at this point. So they're either going to need to call it a cold case, or we need some really good investigative journalism out there, at least re-asking, the questions. And because I'm sure there's some things that were overlooked that sounded ridiculous at the time, like, oh yeah, well, I'll write down that information, I'll file it, and then it just kind of just sits there. But now if you were to look over that information again, it's possible that it's more meaningful. But that's just my 2 cents. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. Appreciate it, guys. Those of you who left some super chats and super stickers, much love. Thank you so much. We're at the hour marker, so that's going to be it. I believe this is episode 3 of True Crime Cases. I'm going to figure it out and I'll put it in the title there, but I'm pretty sure.